I will be.
Yeah, just showing my support.
Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth, oh come on home. Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth, we're coming home.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Interfaith Ohana of Hawai'i's 2025 World Interfaith Harmony Week event. 15 years ago, in recognition of the importance of mutual understanding, cooperation, and interreligious dialogue in creating a culture of peace and nonviolence, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed the first week of February World Interfaith Harmony Week. The need for spiritual guidance has never been greater. It is imperative that we spread the message of good neighborliness based on our common humanity, a message shared by all faith traditions. Each year, events are organized all over the world to celebrate the message of interfaith harmony and goodwill in churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples, as well as online and in public spaces. World Interfaith Harmony Week provides a platform that connects the hundreds of events that are taking place this week, promoting interreligious dialogue and celebration, the deep foundational values shared by all of the world's faith traditions: peace, harmony, joy, and love. I'd like to acknowledge Unity Earth, Seventh Generation Fund, New Now, and the International Academy for Multicultural Cooperation for their co-sponsorship of this event. Ben Bowler, our co-moderator, will also mention other co-sponsors of this event. To all of our co-sponsors, panelists, and all of you joining us today, my deepest appreciation. My name is Audrey Kitagawa, and I'm the president and founder of the International Academy for Multicultural Cooperation. Today, we are pleased to feature a fascinating look at ancient sacred traditions, healing wisdom for modern times. This panel discussion brings together respected experts from 3 different indigenous traditions: Dr. Manulani Aluli Meyer from Hawaii, Christopher Peters from California, and Dr. Anne Poelena from Australia. The speakers' bios will be placed in the chat box when they begin their presentations. This is a beautiful irony in the fact that in these times of climate disasters, armed conflict, and extreme political and ideological divisions, the peaceful, earth-centered ancient wisdom of the indigenous peoples is coming to the forefront. The world of artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and quantum computing are very far removed from indigenous traditions, but the sacred indigenous values of respect, reciprocity, sacred relationality, and humility are exactly what are needed to guide us toward a more balanced, harmonious, and peaceful world. Our hearts are being called to hear the voices that are sharing this wisdom with all of us. The ancient, enduring wisdom of the indigenous peoples is resonating with humanity's desire to hearken back to a kinder, more loving, and gentler world, not to go backwards, nor to reject the technologies and conveniences of the modern world, but reconnect with ourselves, with others, and with the divine source that lives in all of us. Deep reverence and respect for the land, the waters, and all living things can help us make that connection. And we must open our hearts to these ancient sacred traditions that bring healing, wisdom, which we all need. I'm joined today by my co-moderator, Ben Bowler, Executive Director of Unity Earth, who will co-moderate today's discussion. And Ben, with his team at Unity Earth, have worked tirelessly for many years, advocating for unity, purpose, and peace, and developing an extensive network and inspiring initiatives such as World Unity Week and Peace Week. I would like to turn the floor over to Ben at this time, who will share his thoughts with you and also introduce the other co-sponsors of this event. Thank you so much, Ben.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Audrey Kitagawa. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be doing this with you and the International Academy of Multicultural Cooperation and the Interfaith Ohana of Hawai'i. It's so important. This United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week, as you've said, is now an idea that's 15 years old. And it's been such a seminal part of that journey of Unity Earth that you've mentioned over these years. Events that we have participated in Ethiopia, in the Holy Land, in New York, over these years have been devoted to this very celebration, the first week of February for World Interfaith Harmony Week. So it's a great privilege and joy to be here today with these amazing speakers. I'm so excited about the lineup of Indigenous wisdom holders that will be sharing with us today. And really, when you think about the world context, it's never been more important, this kind of work, interfaith dialogue and harmony, intercultural cooperation, Unity Earth, and all of the associated organizations here. When you think about what we are standing for, in contrast to hardening borders, increased tribalism, more divided communities across the planet, this conversation, this intercultural, interfaith, open, unity conversation of all humanity and all of life has never been more relevant and more important. So super excited for today and so grateful to be honoring this important occasion. I'm very interested that in Interfaith Harmony Week, we are featuring ancient sacred traditions. The more classical interpretation of interfaith is the religions talking to each other. So I think part of what's so exciting about today is broadening our understanding, expanding our definitions, opening our mind beyond just the last few thousand years of religious traditions to embrace the tens of thousands of years of ancient sacred wisdom. That is such an important medicine for our modern times and for the challenges we face. Here in Australia, and we'll hear a little bit later from Auntie Ann Polina, but the tradition goes back 60,000 years at least. And so to really have that wisdom to be able to come and help be a part of what navigates us forward, along with the other amazing speakers, Dr. Manulani and Chris Peters, that we have today. So very honored on behalf of Unity Earth to be here. I want to thank also co-sponsors Purpose Earth and the Spiritual Life TV channel, as well as our production team at Hubcast Media. There's a big group that have come together to make this happen. So very, very honored. Let's get into it. Audrey, I'm so grateful to you and all of your team for everything you've done to make this possible. I'm going to throw back to you to introduce our luminous speakers today.
Thank you so much, Ben. And we're going to start our presentations first with Dr. Manulani Meyer. And again, these panelists' bios, extensive bios, will be put in the chat box. So I will not be mentioning any of their bios. And I would like to turn the floor over to Dr. Meyer at this time. Dr. Meyer, you now have the floor.
Ukuluo puakai, ma'alihilani kai, kulalani ka hikokai, elo o lalo I kavayo kulani hakoi. Kulu kulu maila ua, haveve maila ua, loku maila ua, e ola ko lalo nei. I kupua mu o maila, mu o laula maila, laua lala maila, lala, akumu maila, kumu apa aino ole. Uaikea. Aloha mai kako a pau e ku'umau hoa. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Ben. Mahalo, Ann. Mahalo, Uncle Chris. Thank you so much for being here. Mahalo for representing the lands you come from. Mahalo nui for this opportunity to learn from each other and to share in the knowledge of a worldwide evolution. This is not a revolution. This is an evolution, because what we are learning here in Hawaii, ho'oulu aku, ho'oulu mai, meaning our growth is collective. So it's always been collective. So we have a very many beloved sayings here in Hawaii. One of my favorite is to describe Hawaiian thinking, Hawaiian, our ike kupuna, the thinking of our elders. The concept is mo ike aloha, mo ike aloha, mo'o ike aloha, mo ike. Mo'o is an energy of, it's our word for story, it's our word for genealogy, it's also our word for continuity. So mo ike aloha is the concept that the genesis of our knowledge systems is loving, is deep compassion. Mo ike aloha is a synonym for Hawaiian epistemology, for Hawaiian thinking. So the next 10 minutes, you're going to be exposed to a little bit of a mo ike aloha given to all of us and to Hawaii by dreamers, by practitioners, by the love of land and the love of our people here in Hawaii. Hawaii, of course, is completely a student of you, and Auntie Anne, because we have been in the Pacific for 10, 15, 20,000 years. And so whenever I hang around Aboriginal people in Australia, it is humbling. It is humbling and necessary, because island people, we are contextualized within a spirituality, not so much a religion. Thank you for saying that, Ben, because religion for us is the bureaucracy of spirituality. Spirituality is an ancient understanding of our connection to land, sky, water, dreams, and everything that comes with the concept of continuity. So we're trying to refurbish our understanding of our own history, and we have to heal. We're healing now. So the healing process in the world is allowing us to find the idea that combines us as practitioners of our ancient systems. And one of the most ancient ideas is the au pula pula. So people have said that they have defined our histories, and we are now taking back our understanding of histories so that our spirituality can be expressed in our own terms and in our own ways. So au makua, ali'i, mo'i, kupa is now turning to au pula pula, meaning the time of pula pula. In India, when I went there 20 years ago, they basically said the age of the guru is over. So we express that as au pula pula. This is the time of all of our awakening. And what I love that, I just want to take a breath on that idea. It's our time to awake. It's not their time, it's my time. So our pula pula for us started in the mid-70s when we started to realize that we have a voyaging tradition, and we started to voyage without any technical instruments, but only our relationship to currents, stars, and winds, and sky, and beings. So this au pula pula is this concept of ho'oulu aku, ho'oulu mai. Our expansion has always been collective. So this is why when we go into the depth of our spiritual traditions that really are teaching us about mutual causal realities, we're going together. And I see that some of my friends are here, Ruby and Ivalani, and we are going through an understanding of one of our most profound processes of healing. It's called ho'oponopono, the use of relative truth to return to absolute truth. And because absolute truth is not found in our intellect, it could possibly be the other way around. That absolute truth allows us to understand relative truth, because Hawaii, aloha is our true intelligence. It really is. And so Audrey's summary of what Indigenous peoples around the planet are bringing forward, the key for us here in Hawaii is that geography shapes our knowing. And we are led by blue sky, blue ocean, blue sky. And blue is the ancient color of love for us. So we are kind of drenched in that idea of aloha aku, aloha mai, and the simultaneity and the discipline of what it means to love. Love is about loving. It's always been a verb. So what I wanted to really go over today is the idea that we here in Hawaii are transforming Ho'oponopono into Mea Uwao. And Mea Uwao, as Ruby and Ivalani might know already, is that we're going into the practice that's usually grounded in a lot of cultural heaviness, and we're bringing it out into the practice of everyone. Mea Uwao means a peacemaker. Mea Uwao could be a lawyer, an arbitrator, a counselor, a coach. I'm a Mea Uwao because I'm a coach. And what that means for us in Hawaii is that our culture no longer is a external book learning idea. It becomes more of an internal, embodied, principled one. And when you begin to embody systems of common sense that are shaped by the love of land and the service of people, Oyavali no, the love of land and the service of people. This is what the chant that began my talk was all about. It said, look, the horizon, the clouds are coming. That's you. That's everybody in this. That's everybody. The clouds are amassing. And when the clouds come, the ho'oulu aku ho'oulu mai, we are gaining from each other's interconnection and excellence. And that's the concept that Teilhard de Chardin has taught me, that unity differentiates. So the capacity for us to clarify how we differ is key now. It's key. So we like to say in Hawaii, we are all the same differently. We are all the same differently. And that sameness is a thread of essence that can't be controlled, can't be made, can't be uniformed, but it can be possessed in different ways. And this is why I'm looking forward to listening to you, Uncle Chris, and to you, Auntie Anne, as the Hawaiians are learning in the world, and as we're beginning to heal with our occupiers, not just angry at them, but helping them heal in the cacophony that is modern society. America is going through a challenge right now. But here's my quote for the week. Spiritual evolution accelerates with the engagement of contrast. And boy, do we have contrast. And so that's my major message, Audrey, is that truth is our highest goal and aloha is the greatest truth. We do believe that aloha is the guiding principle of our lives. And as a haku ho'oponopono and a mea uwao, as a coach, as a peacemaker, as a student in life, as a practitioner of our philosophies, it is very important to ne'e malie. You go quietly and humbly into the world to be of service so that we recognize again how much our land has always loved us. See, our word for land is ku'u'aina aloha. Ku'u'aina aloha. It means that which has always loved us is our aina, is our land. So now we're starting different projects to turn the coconut back into the tree of life instead of an ornamental liability. People fear coconuts. I forgive myself for my self-sustaining ignorance, but and so we're working in one of the most expensive places to live in the world to deconstruct capitalism so we can reconstruct a sharing economy. So we need to kulukumahana. We need to gather our energies and believe that we can do it. We have to suspend our disbelief that it's an impossible task. And the suspension of disbelief actually begins spiritual practice. Isn't that beautiful? The suspension of disbelief begins spiritual practice. And that's my Chinese side talking. So here in Hawaii, we're all poi dogs. We're all poi dogs, and we're all part of everything. So everything is everything, and everyone is a part of everyone. This is why we have great jokes over here. We have great jokes that understand how we differ, and therefore how we remain in love with each other. So mahalo e ke okua, na kinio kua, na auma kua, na kupuna, maloko o ku'u pu'uwai, maloko o ku'u mau na au. Mahalo nui no kia ai pono, mahalo nui no kia aha. Thank you for this opportunity to share some ike from my beloved homeland of Hawaii Nui Akea.
Thank you so much, Manulani. Do you care to share your ending in English so we can all understand your beautiful Hawaiian message to us?
I just thanked everybody from the inside of us to the outside. It's all the same. Mahalo, Audrey.
Thank you so much. And of course, gratitude is such an important spiritual principle. So thank you so much for ending on that articulation, Dr. Meyer. All right, next to have the floor will be Chris Peters from Seventh Generation Fund. So Chris, you now have the floor. Going to have to unmute Chris, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
I can't get rid of it. Anyway.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, thank you, Audrey, for the kind words. And thank you, Dr. Meyer, for your extreme intelligence and your wisdom that you shared with us in the past few minutes. We are in a period of time of Trump politics. And I think we would be amiss not to mention that. It unleashes some attacks on Indigenous peoples of the United States and Indigenous peoples of the world, because what happens here happens throughout the world, and it's of concern, you know, and it's concerning the traditions and the wisdom of spiritual leaders, and you know, how we sustain ourselves as Indigenous peoples over the next 4 years, over the next 8 years, will mean significantly. The impacts of the politics of the right wing or left wing, it's all the same bird. You know, it's all the same thing. We're not talking about something new. We're talking about something old. But Trump politics is upon us, and we need to strengthen these traditional systems and explore how we can survive. The topic of the day is ancient sacred traditions in the teachings of wisdom in modern times. You know, how do we perpetuate that in modern times is important to us. You know, and you know, it's important to the world on how we survive this entourage, I guess, or interloping of the politics of the world. The wisdom and understanding of who we are, found in our cosmology and sacred teachings of the Yurok people, of the Karuk people, of people of Northern California, define our relationship with the world and all forms of life. It embraces natural systems or natural law and sets forth principles of how human beings must live and care for the earth. Human beings must live and care for the earth. It teaches respect, reverence, and a process of reciprocity, of a philosophy of giving back at least the amount that we have taken from the earth for basic survival, a process that sustains rather than drains the natural systems and elements of the earth. These legends also instruct us not to violate natural systems, or more specifically known as Indian law, not to violate Indian law. The natural systems must be kept in balance, and if they're not, human beings, Oath, will suffer the consequences. They're out of balance now. We need to be cautious of that. Mother Earth is going to slap us, and going to slap us hard. We need to look at systems of how to sustain ourselves beyond the next 4 years and how to sustain ourselves in the future, because the attacks unleashed by the Trump administration and by the previous administration has impacted natural systems, have impacted the survival, long-term survival of Indigenous people and Indigenous thought. This infringement to natural order will come back on us. It will come back on us. We know this to be true. It will visit our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids, their great-great-grandkids. It's truly inescapable. If we violate natural systems or Indian law, we will suffer the consequences. We know this to be true. We know from experience that this will be true, and how it comes back on us will be detrimental to us. Mother Earth is mad. She's going to slap us really hard. We need to sustain it. These secret teachings describe how ceremonies were created and tell us rituals that reaffirm our spiritual understanding and provide a means by which Oth can take care of the earth. And keep in mind, I have to use religious terminology here, but it's more significant than religious terminology. How we as human beings must administer to the earth. How do we take care of the earth? We need to be aware of that. They are as good today as they were in yesteryear. These methods of teaching and administering the earth are good today. They're good and they're effective today as they were in yesteryear. Puhlik people refer to this ritual as medicine making, or high mountain medicine, if you will. We understand that the mountain has spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence. The mountain, the land, the earth has spiritual intelligence since Nathi Khan time. Nathi Khan is a good word to use here because it's used in a lot of the wisdom and teaching of our people. Nathi Khan refers to a period that is a time before time, if you will, when there was no time. And it goes way back. Our Yurok and Karuk people have used the sacred high country located in the Siskiyou mountain range for eons of time, since Nathi Khan time, for medicine making, or if you will, vision questing. If you will, vision questing may be more understandable than mountain medicine, high mountain medicine. It requires, as required for this ritual of medicine making, one has to live a truly good life. You have to live and respect yourself and respect other people, to love other people, to be a good human being, to be a good person, a pergurk. We call it pergurk, a good person, a good man, a good woman is somebody that is loving and taken care of and lives well in this life we live. One has to be a good Puhlik-lah, or a good person of the tribe. Then after periods of purification or cleaning one's mind and body and soul, religious leaders complete pilgrimages to places such as Dr. Rock, Peak 8, Chimney Rock, Little Medicine Mountain, and other sacred sites as well. Sacred sites, keep in mind, are not only sacred to human beings, but are sacred to all of creation, sacred to the birds, sacred to the animals, sacred to the deer, sacred to the bear. It's sacred to an ecosystem, if you will. In recent years, I realized that this term of sacred has become anthropocentric. Human beings believe that they are a chosen people. They can only achieve this themselves. Anthropocentrism can be contagious. We need to be aware of that. At these sacred places, we fast, we dance, we jump, we sing, and through intense, deep meditation and prolonged, continuously driven thought, sometimes for many, many days, our spiritual leaders administer to the earth. Through this process, we communicate with the spiritual side of the universe, or spiritual universe, the spirits that live all around us. We come to know what we didn't know before. And again, in a religious term, we achieve a revelation. We understand what we didn't understand before. We know what we didn't know before. And that teaches us some some inspiration. We achieve revelation and acquire the wisdom and knowledge that reaffirm our earth-based spiritual ideology. We also receive the spiritual power needed to perform earth healing and earth renewing ceremonies. These are called Srachapiwe, or the White Deerskin Dance, and Wela Wela Ga, the Raising Up ceremony. They're 10 days long ceremonies. They're prayer ceremonies. They're significant to our people. These ceremonies form the foundation of our earth-based spiritual belief system. And if there were more time, I would provide deeper explanation to the ceremonies, but we have very limited time. These revelations also inform us of the ethical and moral foundation of our people and set forth the systems of values of our ecological centered paradigm. The systems of values, how we will behave, how will we act on earth. Please understand that the Puhlik people are not monotheistic. We don't have only one God. We have not evolved from Abrahamic theology. Native paradigm is significantly different. There is not a single God. Keep in mind, we have many gods. We have spiritual people. In fact, among many Native people, perhaps for Indigenous peoples of Americas, or the Christian God is often referred to as an illegal alien. Illegal alien. It came to our country, came to our communities with the first of the boat people. And for us, there are spirits, and they're all over. They're all over the spiritual beings living. And I hear a bell ringing. My time is almost up. It is through legends and ceremonies that we understand our creation happened in our territory. We are not some lost tribe of Israel, and we didn't trek across the Bering Straits. We are here. Our homeland contained monuments, rocks, mountains, rivers, and stand in testimony to the mythological world and corroborate our tribal cosmology, our tribal belief system. Thus, nowhere else in the world can such an emotional or spiritual relationship exist other than here in our homeland. And we are here, and we will be here forever and ever. So, I didn't get through most of my presentation, but contact me, and I'd be glad to have conversation with you about what's going on. And I apologize for the brevity of our situation here. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you so much, Chris Peters. It's always wonderful to hear from you and to see you. Next, I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Anne Poelina from Australia. Dr. Poelina, you now have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Mabungimbi, ngajunu nilawala Anne Poelina, ngayo imadawara manen, ngai mandajara nyigana ngai nganga, anunga wajak buja. And thank you. So in my language, I said, good morning. My name is Anne Poelina. I'm a woman who belongs to the Muddawara, the Fitzroy River, in the Kimberley region of Western Australia. So I am duty bound to protect this sacred river, not just for my life, but its life, so that it continue to flow. So I think when we're talking about all of the things that we're talking about, I totally agree. This is about spirituality for me. It is not about religion. It's about activating what we call our lian, our moral compass, which guides us through life. So I come from a world that is created because we call ourselves that we come from a holistic society, not a dichotomous society that cuts everything up, land, water, people, environment. Everything is all connected. Everything is all the same. For us, the land is the law. The river gives us these principles. When we are born as Indigenous people, we are given a totem. My totem happens to be the blue-tongued lizard. And what that does is it bonds us for life to a non-human creature, that we learn to grow a sense of empathy and care and love for our non-human family. They are kin. They are everything to us. So I come from a world where we negotiated the values, the ethics, the virtues, how to live as civilized people in a space where we agreed these are the rules that we would come together and live in peace and harmony. In the 1600s, an Italian mapmaker drew a map of the Kimberley where I come from, and across the map he wrote Land of Peace. So we've always come from a land of peace because we know that we are looking for peace, harmony, and balance. It is an honor to be a human being, to think, to reason, to have an intellect, to be able to look in the world and say, how can we all walk and work together, not just with ourselves as human beings, but with our non-human family. So for me, as I said, this world, which is holistic, encompasses everything for us. We do not see time in a linear way, we see it in a circle. And that's one of the things that gives me hope, is that we need to be brave. We need to do what we need to do, and we need to bring and share and honor our young people. And the wisdom that we want to transform and transfer to them is also the wisdom that we want to share with the world. So I've published heavily in this area. I also make films and stories and poetry, because I find a little in some situations that sometimes we're a little bit testosteroned out on science, and we need different ways to tell the story. So that's why Indigenous culture is so relevant, with song, with ceremony, but always recognizing that the land and the river systems are what embeds law of the land, not law of man. So this world that we engage is for everyone and everything around us. We come from a world where I talk about polycentric governance, bottom up, but always on scale. We worked and lived from a biocultural, a bioregional perspective, because it was about everything and everyone working together, understanding cumulative impacts of development, understanding the economies that we could bring in terms of understanding that it's not just about money, it's about the social capital, human capital, spiritual capital, cultural capital. We're living in a capitalist system, so we need some form of economy and trade. But all of the things that we talk about are a trade and a ceremony and a gifting. We gift to you. So there are 5 principles that I live by, which is respect, relationship, reciprocity, and with rights comes responsibilities. So we look at the world from this total perspective, from a bioregional, bicultural perspective, and I talk about first law, the philosophy of the world in terms of when we are born, as I said, into a totem that teaches us from as very, very young people to see and read the world in which we are in. The elders have taught us to look for what is not meant to be there, so you know what is out of sync. We're in a time, as I said, which we need collective wisdom. And one of the things I really celebrate is the Chinese New Year. So for us, the serpent being is really something very, very significant. And this year is the year of the serpent. When we talk about the serpent, what we're really saying is, how do we wake up the consciousness of the people to bring the people with us? This is not just Indigenous people, this is all of humankind. So these laws that were given to us from the beginning of time about values, ethics, virtues, how to construct and hold a moral obligation under first law, and as I said, self-regulation, the rules we negotiated to live civil, human to non-human, within a space that looks at the holistic perspective of all life. So I live in a country, a very strange place, where it is still business as usual, because we are talking about the politics of economics, not the politics of well-being. So the world that we've inherited really is looking at, how do we work with these clash of values? How do we bring this ancient wisdom in? How do we listen to all our fellow citizens that are sitting on this panel? Because we, each and every one of us, not only have a duty of care, but we have wisdom that we can bring to share with mankind, because we're in a very unsteady space at the moment where if we don't stop business as usual, we will meet our own demise. So this is a very important time for us to come together, very important time to listen to that moral compass, that lian, that guides us through life in terms of the changes that we are experiencing. And I agree that in terms of this ancient wisdom is so relevant for modernity. And so Indigenous people across the planet are coming with this gift, not just of knowledge and wisdom, but with love, and saying that you need to work with us. We need to collectively work together to build the, can you believe this? A word called economy. How do we care for our common home? So we need all of us to come together. We need all of us to sing and dance and share ceremony, because that is the process of hearing the heart of the land, to hear the spirit of the land. And so, as I said, it is a very important thing to be a human being, to think, to have reason and logic, to bring other wisdom keepers in, not just Indigenous ones, but those who want to contribute to planetary health of Mother Earth. So these systems are very vulnerable at the moment, and unless we can combine a way to come together in dialogue, as Freire wrote about, dialogic action, we need to come together, we need to create that dialogue, we need cooperation, we need unity, we need to be organized. And most importantly, one of the things that Paulo Freire talked about was this concept of cultural synthesis. So the plurality of the fact that we live in a pluriverse, not a universe, where all wisdom keepers need to come in and share this knowledge. So we're in a moment in time where, as I say, wake up the snake. How do we wake up the consciousness of the people to bring the people with us? Because we know in many of the nation states that we live, that our governments are no longer in charge. It's the multinational corporations that dictate the quality of our lives. And so we need to be wise, we need to be sharing and caring, and we need to listen to the voices, not just of the people, but the voice of the land. What is country saying? How are our non-human kin guiding us through the complexity of where we come from, where we live, and where we want to send the dream out to reach that space that all of us can live in peace and harmony. So Indigenous people in this country, we were global citizens. When the land bridges were up, we traveled all over the world. South America, a skull found 30,000 years ago, where did it come from? Tasmania. So as Indigenous people, we need to really be valued as a human species that can help provide the planetary solutions, otherwise we will meet our demise. And so there's many people working at so many different levels. And some of you may have heard me say, you know, in terms of the Extinction Rebellion, people who say, oh, if human beings are so stupid, they will, you know, befall their own demise. And I say, well, if that happens, then Mother Earth would be lonely without the footsteps of human beings. So we're in a time where we have to wake up. We have to raise the consciousness. We have to awaken the spirituality within ourselves. And we must look at what does development look like from a freedom perspective. So we're in a moment in time in my country where many, many things are out of whack, but we hold on to hope because we see time in a circle and not in a linear. And we know and we believe that we must be able to continue to dance, to sing, and to have ceremony on the earth. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to share with all of you, but to realize that there is an opportunity to build the economics of well-being, to care for the land, to care for our non-human family, to be able to dance and sing and bring people to country. I've published a paper called Feeling and Hearing Country, or Feeling and Hearing the Land and the country and the rivers and our non-human family are waiting for us to come up with the planetary solutions so we can continue as a species and reach our full potential, but most importantly, transfer our knowledge to the younger generation so that they can continue to dance and sing and have all of the wonderful ceremonies that we continue to have. So Galia Mabu, thank you, and lots of love. Thank you, Ben, for providing this opportunity. Thank you for the fellow speakers, because we stand here today with a big honor of being human and opening our lian, our moral compass, to the world, and saying quite outrightly that if we do not listen to the wisdom of Indigenous people across the planet, we will meet our own demise. And the planet will continue, but she will be very lonely, Mother Earth. So Galia Mabu, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ann Poelina. And I would like to turn the floor over to Ben now, who will moderate the question and answer period. So Ben, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Audrey, and thank you, Auntie Anne. And wow, can I just say on behalf of everyone, the profound grace and wisdom that we have heard and received here today. I think we're going to need to go back and watch this recording 2 or 3 times to really grasp all of the gems and the beautiful wisdom that has been shared. Thank you to Dr. Manulani, Meyer, and Chris Peters, and to you, Auntie Anne. I know you got up very early in your time zone to come and share with us. And this is a profound conversation. You know, there are over 200 people here in the Zoom room, and as of yet, I think everyone's just in awe. And so we'll give them a moment to catch their breath and maybe ask a question. But in the meantime, it gives us an opportunity to come back around the circle, having heard the reflections of Chris Peters. Let's start again with you, Manulani, and having heard the amazing sharing from Auntie Anne Paulina. I wonder if there's anything that's sort of arising for you, Dr. Manulani, and let me also add the question to each of you. What do you see that are the most profound reasons for hope for the kind of convergence that you're all talked about, that Auntie Anne was just talking about, of actually bringing together and connecting the ancient sacred traditions with people of goodwill from all cultures around the world in a more formidable unity in our time? I'd like to pose that as an open question, but also to ask you anything that's come up from hearing the speakers from Chris and Anne. Let's go to you, Dr. Manulani.
Oh gosh, thank you, Ben. Wow, Uncle Chris and Auntie Anne, mahalo nui. That was really a rich telling, coming from your heart, and coming from the our faith in each other, and our faith in the circular sense of time. And we here in Hawaii, I just got told today that the military that we've been working with, they give us, I go out and talk to the military, and they give us hundreds of military men to help in our cultural agroforestry movement, because we need to heal with the military that's occupying our lands. And today they told me that free labor, that economy of well-being that you spoke of, Auntie Anne, is now becoming an economy of economics. And so it's not going to happen. And I said to the captain that told me the bad news that they're not going to be able to send weekly soldiers to our lands that need care. I said, that's okay, because we knew it was coming, and we've had you for 3 years, and now the tide goes in, the tide goes out. So the circular nature of our world is something that keeps equanimity at the center of my peace, and then it drives my faith. I have faith in the inevitable of our collaboration, as expressed to you by you folks today, as expressed by all of us, that we are doing it right now. It's happening right now. Mahalo.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Manulani, for that comment. We do have a question from the chat, so maybe address this to you, Chris, but any of the panelists who maybe want to weigh in. It's a big question. It says, what does deconstructing capitalism look like? It's from David Wick from Pathways to Peace. What does deconstructing capitalism look like, Uncle Chris Peters? Do you want to have a crack at that one?
Well, we have to have an alternative. The current method of development is the only method. It's the only thing they have to experience, to understand. So we have to offer some experience, some alternative to this experience. We have to show them that we can survive without the corporate powers that exist today, that we can survive off the land. Basic. How do we gather? How do we hunt? How do we fish? And how do we gather from the land to be able to feed ourselves and feed the people? We don't need corporate farms. We don't need industrial development anymore. We can do it, and we've done it in the past. We can do it in the future.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So we need. That's a beautiful challenge and a design challenge, Chris, isn't it? I wonder, Dr. Anne Paulina, if you have anything you wanted to add to that as well. We do have Connie Baxter-Marlow, who's got a question coming in, but Anne, I thought I'd give you a chance to respond to that question. How do we deconstruct capitalism?
We need to get rid of the ego-logical and come in with the ecological, ego versus eco. So, this is a really important time where we have to come up with new ideas. And so this is one of the things I said, like, how could our culture have lived for 65,000 years without capitalism? That's a good question. And so what we're looking at now is, what does this mean, the economics of well-being? And for me, we are looking at all of the different forms of capital. I was on a panel the other night where people were, very highly informed economists, and someone was talking about we cannot continue to have growth. And they said, what do you think about the growth economy? And I said, it depends on what you're growing. Are you growing a decent human being? Once we have a decent human being, we can self-regulate our practice and we can come together. So it's all of these things: social capital, human capital, cultural capital, environmental, and some form of, exchange and trade. And one woman was talking about what we've always had, which was a gifting society. And so, I think it's really a conversation where we need to really be working, as, our sister just said this morning, place-based. We really need to invest in the local. That old adage, work local, think global, is really coming into the equation now. We need to do what we need to do collectively. We need to stand with each other. We need to support each other at a place-based level, and then that will have a ripple effect. For me, it is about what I call polycentric governance, bottom-up governance, looking at working together on scale, bioregions, biocultural regions. So it's just having a go and trying those sorts of new things and seeing how we can build the economies of well-being. It's about healing the land, regenerating the land, not continuous extraction. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Very profound answers there. We have the knowledge, we have the wisdom. I mean, collectively, as the human family, we are not bereft of a direction here. And now it's about the execution and the application from the ground up, is what I'm hearing from our esteemed panelists here. Oh wait, we have a hand up, which is very exciting. So we're going to bring in Connie Baxter-Marlow for a quick question. Connie.
Yes, indeed, Ben. It's wonderful to be here with you folks, as sharing the heart and spirit of the Native people that I saw 30 years ago were going to be key to the future of humanity, and that time is now. And my question is for Anne, and that is, you say the earth will be lonely without humanity. As there's so much thought that humanity is a negative for the earth and for all of creation. And I would love for you to share, what is it about humanity that is key for the evolution of all that is? That's my belief, that all of creation is awaiting the opening of the human heart. And I would just love to hear from you, your thoughts, just to give everyone a little bit of a good feeling about themselves, because that's what's going to take us to the higher way of being.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if you heard what I talked about earlier, which is our moral compass. We call it a lian. So within ourselves, our human spirit, we need to tune into that and listen and be guided by that. What I was talking about was the fact that we all need to come together, and really we're in a moment in time where I call what is happening in the world climate chaos and much uncertainty. So I think it's really a way to awaken the human spirit to understand that we are coming with a gift which is freely given. As a gift society, all of us, the three of us, are saying, we want you to reach your full potential. It must start with dialogue. It must start with place-based governance and leadership, and then we ripple out into the world. So from that perspective, what I was talking about is that Mother Earth, she is such a patient being, And we have been so abusive. And for me, it's about letting go of ecological stuff and getting on with the ecological and finding ways to heal the planet and really come back and say rivers across the world, which are my passion, really, really need to wake the people up. And that's what I'm saying, wake up the consciousness of the people. So individually, we have a moral contract to help humanity reach its full potential. Otherwise, we will meet its own demise. We are in a conflict because it's the politics of economics and not the politics of well-being. How can we grow decent human beings who self-regulate their behavior and look for the greater good of all of us? Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. So much resonance here with everything that's been shared. And thank you, Connie, for your question. I am remembering one of the comments from Manulani earlier that the spiritual evolution is related to the degree of contrast, and just really holding that is challenging and as difficult as so many of these diverse and in tension with each other perspectives can be, that therein lies incredible spiritual potential. And I think drawing inspiration from that. We have time for one or two more questions. I've got one here which I'll address to those who are within the sphere of influence of particularly the United States. So this would be Chris and Manulani. It's a question from Rita Marsh, and it's, how does the influence of the doctrine of discovery influence how your society, your people are treated today, and how might the influence of the doctrine of discovery be resolved and remedied? Perhaps, Chris, we'll start with you.
Well, the doctrine of discovery, and more recently, federal Indian law, has wreaked havoc on the United States and Hawaii and other places that American control. You know, the doctrine of discovery has been detrimental to the thought process. It convinced us that we don't know how to behave and act as Indigenous peoples. It brought in Christianity. And as much as people are afraid of that word, we need to look at that concept of Christian belief system a little harder and assert Indigenous thinking over that. You know, I think the idea of Christianity has wreaked havoc on Indigenous peoples. We have churches, as many churches and as mines and as timber harvesting plants on reservations. You know, they're after Indigenous souls throughout the universe.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. It's a big discussion, and one that has a lot of historical weight and current power as well. So, Manulani, did you have anything you would like to contribute to that?
Jacques Derrida said in the 70s that text is going to be the downfall of Western civilization. So the response for me is what you were saying, Auntie Anne, is that it's context, not text. So the doctrine of discovery has no place in the understanding of our evolution. It's a text that has no mana in our language, in our future. So we don't even refer to it, because it's like always comparing Ike Kupuna to our ancestral wisdom to Descartes, when our systems are wholeness, and they've always been whole. They've never been dualistic. And so the doctrine of discovery has no mana in my people's thinking.
And I wonder, because you have three eminent academics here, as well as ancient wisdom holders, I wonder, Auntie Anne, in our context here in Australia, you know, the great deception really was terra nullius, or this idea, this legal terminology that when European powers discovered this continent, so-called discovered this continent, they declared it as empty land, as a legal concept. Obviously different, but has some contextual overlay with the doctrine of discovery as a framework or a story that allows dominant cultures to do whatever they like without you know, moral ambiguity. Would you like to speak a little bit into that? How are we in Australia recovering from this legal deception of terra nullius? Did you have any comments, Auntie Anne, to add to that?
I think the question is, what is truth? We are human beings, and we were here long before the colonists came and settled society. So that gives us standing. Someone said to me, if you believe you have a right, you must hold it. Nobody's going to give it to you. So this is the conversation I'm having in regards to how do we look at development as freedom for our people, as colonized people. So I think it really, for me, as I said earlier, it's all about dialogue. This is a journey that we cannot do without fellow Australians. And that's why I started the conversation with Wake Up the Snake. How do we wake up the consciousness of our fellow citizens in the lands that we live and bring them with us to show that we were the first everything. If we are the oldest culture in the world, the first archaeologists, anthropologists, geologists, hydrologists, living in a system that was really a gifting society where there was no capitalistic thinking, we saw everything around us as equal. And I guess, so many good people that I am working with in this country and across the planet are starting to do this, because remember what I said, it's the land that is a living system. It holds the laws, it creates the laws. And so what we want to do is bring people on the journey, show them that a different way of how we can walk and work together. So really it's looking at all of the things that I talked about with Paulo Freire, about cooperation, about unified, about being organized, but most important, that cultural synthesis, that collectively we bring in the wisdom, Indigenous and not, and we looked at place-based polycentric governance, because for my people, we always governed on scale. What happens upstream impacts downstream, what happens sideways and whatever. So it's really an opportunity to wake up the consciousness of our non-Indigenous fellow citizens and say, your life will be totally transformed once you engage and build a relationship, first with the land. The land is not empty. Even the concept of wilderness, it was not wild country. We always managed it. So this is a really important time. It's really looking at the values, the ethics, the virtues, listening to the stories of our people and walking hand in hand, because this country will never reach its full potential until we become free of the British sovereignty and the laws that govern us. And so we need to come together as fellow Australians and dream that we all need to be free. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. And again, we're going to have to go back and watch this, maybe draw out some clips from the sharing of Manulani and Chris and Anne and put them out there for many to see. It's very heartening to see 200 people here in the room, very, receiving this incredible wisdom. Sue Zip has got a question. Sue, welcome.
Very much. This is most enlightening and very appreciated. Thank you each and all. If I may get your input on the role that one's own spiritual practice has in the awarenesses that you're talking about. My spiritual practice of Buddhism includes the aspect of communication and dialogue in all forms, of respect for the land, of the oneness of person and the environment, etc. And because what you're speaking of requires, to me, not only self-motivation and self-empowerment, but ways to not be swayed by the news or whatever stresses might be in the environment. So I would love your comments, and thank you so kindly.
Sue, would you like to direct that to one of our wisdom holders to begin with?
Well, Dr. Anna is by far a fascinating woman, so I would suggest we go to her aunt. Thank you.
Start with Anne.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, the human spirit is so powerful, and it's not a domination of any one thing. It's how we come together with our lived experiences. And if your lived experience has taken you into Buddhism, you are able to have that quietness and reflect and feel the earth. Because what I want to go back to is values, ethics, virtues. Does that religion or that spirituality work with you to train you how to be a good and decent human being? And if that is, the end result of whatever spirituality, whatever religious practice, I think it's that. It's what works for you. if some religion or spirituality transforms you into the human being that you must be, then I reckon that that is inclusive. So it's not one or the other. It's what you find peace with. What motivates you to be a good and decent human being? What brings you into a relationship where you're committing to the chants in the morning or the afternoon or the evening? So it's a moral obligation you need to negotiate in your own pathway to life to reach your full potential. So whatever practice you have, if there's peace in your heart that opens your spirit to turn that moral compass into doing good, then I would say that, because it's collective spirituality and religious practices. But to remember that we as Indigenous people, we hear the land, we hear our customs, we hear the songs and dances of our ancestors, and we continue to dance on the earth and hold that peace. So in a way, what's good for you, you keep doing it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And a great question in World Interfaith Harmony Week. Chris, let's come to you. What is the role of spiritual practice in both the personal dimension as well as our collective work in the world?
Let's define what religion is and what spirituality is. Religion is somebody once had a revelation. Some 2,000 years ago, a smart man walked the earth and understood what it can't be understood. Whereas spirituality, it happens all the time. It's not something that is new. It's not something that is ancient. It's something that is in front of us and achievable. And I believe strongly that if people can shed the concepts of religion and institutional belief systems and get back to spirituality, then they can be transformed. But until that happens, there's no chance in hell of getting to them.
Very important distinction. Thank you, Chris, for that. And Manulani, we'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Wow, that was very, very vital, Uncle Chris. Mahalo nui. Do you see that we're saying the same things differently? And that, Sue, I as a radical Buddhist who followed the footsteps of the Buddha in India, I need to say that the Buddha is very, very Hawaiian, because the nature of simultaneity, it's almost not reciprocal, because reciprocal infers a thought process, when simultaneity means aloha aku, aloha mai, kokua aku, kokua mai, meaning the gift is in the giving. The love is about loving. Ike aku, ike mai, meaning our knowledge is found the moment we begin to express our not knowing. So that simultaneity is very paticca samuppada of the Buddha. So and when you go to paticca samuppada, you're talking about spirituality, not about religion. The Buddhists would never say they're religious. We are action-oriented doers based on the concept of simultaneity. As you sow, so shall you reap. See, all those guys, we're saying the same thing differently. Mahalo for the question.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mahalo for the answers. This is wonderful. And thank you all. Thank you for the engagement and for this rich discussion, connecting these themes of ancient sacred wisdom to the more, let's say, more contemporary spiritual traditions and religions, all of which we can see a unity and a distinction. I really appreciated the Teilhard quote earlier about the importance of distinction as well. Unity has a differentiation. I want to actually bring our host and moderator in here, the incredible Miss Audrey Kitagawa, without notice, to answer this same question, Audrey, because to me it seems to be such an important question about how does one spiritual practice really inform us as individuals, but also the work that we are called to do in the world. I know many of the people watching this are not just here as audience, but they're here as active participants in this great moment of becoming that we are all a part of. we are appreciating deeply the wisdom, but we're also resonating. What does it mean for my own work? What does it mean for my own contributions, my own callings, and my own missions? And I know that everybody here is having those same reflections. So Audrey, would you be willing to share with us your perspective on what is the importance of a spiritual practice as individuals and as in our work as agents of change at this critical time in human history?
Thank you so much, Ben, for the opportunity to share my response to this very important question. And basically, the bottom line is the willingness and the ability to take personal responsibility for your willingness to have the capacity and grow the capacity for inner transformation that can ultimately be outwardly expressed in the work that we do. So it is all from in to out, not out to in, because the external world is always changing. And it's like trying to see a movie. You don't like the movie, you go to the screen and try to change the screen. But you have to come back to the film, because what's on the screen is the finished product of what's inside. So in our daily practice, it takes the discipline, it takes the commitment, it takes the adherence to what we hold dear as our values, so that we can live life with that moral ethical compass that Auntie Polena has been stressing, so that we ourselves can be better human beings and live in sacred relationality with each other, because we have touched the sacred within ourselves. And in that sacred place of the one consciousness, we understand the importance of what we do unto others, we actually do unto ourselves. So this is the importance of spiritual practice. Does it take discipline? Does it take commitment? Does it take the everyday practice in the midst of the seeming ordinariness of daily life, which actually is the miracle of the opportunity every moment that we live to make right choices that arise from right thinking, right perception, right action, because we have made the commitment to transform ourselves within as agents of transformation without. So I'm talking about the inner radiance of that light, that love that is inherently already within us. And the mastery of the self is the most difficult mastery. And this is why it takes the commitment and the assiduousness of daily practice in the midst of living life daily. That is the beauty of life itself, and the opportunity that sacred life presents to each and every one of us to actualize the reality and the beauty of our own potential. So thank you so much, Ben.
Wow. Thank you, Audrey. What a gift, what profound clarity, and being able to apply it to our everyday lives right now. It's not over there or up here or later on, it's here now. And we are invited to step more fully into it together and as our own individual paths. Thank you, Audrey Kitagawa, for that extraordinary response. So I'm going to throw to you now, Audrey, to invite our speakers for their closing remarks. This has been extraordinary. Audrey Kitagawa, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ben. And thank you for each and every one of our fantastic panelists for sharing your wisdom, your hearts, and your perspectives with all of us, the ancient sacred wisdom that ultimately is meant to heal ourselves and heal each other in our sacred relationality with each other. So now we'd like to give the panelists an opportunity. You each will have 3 minutes to give your conclusory comments. So let's start in the order that we began with this evening, and let's hear from Dr. Manulani Meyer. Manulani, you have the floor.
Mahalo, Audrey. Mahalo, Uncle and Auntie Anne. Mahalo nui. I love the concept of ego-logical versus ecological. I think that sums it up perfectly. Paulo Freire also walked into my classroom one day over in Boston, changed my life. And the dialogic is something that we believe, kuka, turn to your partner and talk to each other. So we're learning to talk to each other more and practicing the concept of oya i'o, when we're talking to each other at a higher frequency of truth-telling, so that your communication actually is about healing processes, healing ourselves. Every time I tell people deep truths, I feel like I'm healing myself. So mahalo nui for that. Uncle Chris, thank you truly for the connection that you hold and that you've supported in supporting our Neo Now initiative. Thank you for your work and your wisdom in understanding that spirituality is the great-great-great-great-grandmother of religion. I used to think that religion was completely an issue, and as a gay woman, it is for me. But then I hung out with my Pacific friends in Fiji and Samoa, and they are the ecological warriors. These are the guys, and they are the ones that jump in the ocean and stop the mining. So I've learned to suspend my judgment and suspend my disbelief in the capacity for my own collaborations throughout the Pacific. Because as a recovering Catholic, I have completely learned about the difference between and the functional difference between spirituality. But my final comment is ulua e kevelina a kealoha. Ulua e kevelina a kealoha means the growth of love is the essence within the soul. And 30 years later, after that has been a ho'oma'ama'a, that has been my practice, I now say ulua e kevelina a kealoha means loving is the practice of an awake mind. So wakefulness is the practice that we hold here in my family. Wakefulness is the practice that I hold here in my heart. And when you're loving, we're aware of how to care for land. So maloko ne mawahone, and Audrey, that is what I say after every pule. Maloko ne mawahone. It is from the inside that my outside is known. And that is a simultaneous event. So mahalo for this opportunity to hear, to learn, and to share ideas. Mahalo nui.
Thank you so much, Manulani. And now we look to Chris Peters for your conclusory comments. Chris?
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be on this program. It's been fantastic, sitting with these brilliant minds and hearing their philosophy and their thinking. I am awestruck, simply awestruck by what was going on. For the past 900,000 years, human populations has believed that the earth is sacred and the earth is our mother. It is a violation of human behavior to dig into our mother for gold, to log, to mine, to do the destruction that we have carried out on Mother Earth for 900,000 years. The concept that the earth is no longer sacred gives people authorization to dig, to mine, to log, to tear into the earth. For 5,000 years, we have understood the earth is not sacred. So I think we need to get back to the concept and belief system that the earth is sacred. That indigenous peoples have never swayed or gotten too far from that concept, that the earth is sacred. And we need to understand that what makes it sacred and what believes in what we believe to be true to understanding the earth itself. We've done a lot of destruction of the past 5,000 years, to indigenous peoples, to the earth, to the natural resources, to to the elements of the earth, we have abused significantly, and until we reverse that, until we heal the earth, heal ourselves, that things are going to be better for human beings. So thank you for hearing me out, and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Chris Peters. And we'd like to hear from Dr. Anne Puhlik-lah.
Yeah, look, thank you very much in terms of this closing. It has been a very special conversation. It is all about dialogue. It's also important to push the boundaries and speak to those people that you would not normally speak to. So it's not about sameness. It's looking for how do we bring in different ways to think and be in the world. I think, as I said, is that this gift of wisdom and love and peacemaking is coming from Indigenous people all over the planet. We're in a moment in time where, exactly as Brother said, we must stop the extraction and start the healing. We need to heal the land. We need to hear its cry. We need to be part of that regenerative process. But most importantly, this wisdom and knowledge that we have as Indigenous people, we have a moral contract to make sure that our young people, Indigenous and not, hear this knowledge, hear this wisdom, feel it, be a part of it, and bring them on the journey. In my country, it's very, very strange because we're going into election mode as well. But what I say to the young people is, you have the power, you have the right, you must hold it. That you are the majority of people in this nation, and that you must come together with all the technology you know and bring and sing and dance upon the earth and feel it. It is a time where we all need to, in a way, have silence as well as the negotiation of talking in terms of how we feel country, how we hear it, and how we become a part of it. I think for me, as I said, the work I do, the thing that keeps me going is not seeing time in a linear way, but seeing it in a circle. And I remember one day when I stood in Chicago many, many years ago with a Native American, and I went there because I was in a very dark space in Chicago, and he was almost waiting for me. And I walked in and he said, if you want to be a brave, you must be brave. These things will not come easy. There are many challenges against us. And so with those words, I send it out, and I send the dream out that we can and we must have development as freedom and not as oppression. And so with love in our hearts and the spirituality that binds us, each and every one of us, it is not about religion. It is about how we bring in this diverse thinking. And if it wakens your human spirit and gives you that moral obligation to care and grow in ethics of care and love for this planet and for each and every one of us as human being, then I think we have done our job and we can move on to another space and let the young leaders rise and sing and stand and dance and bring ceremony back to country and awaken the human spirit, but importantly, show that our moral compass is true, and as good and decent human beings, we want everyone else to reach their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
I have to go now.
Go ahead.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Ben. Lots of love. Take care. And Greg, I know you're there. Bye.
Have a great day. Good luck. Love you. Bye.
Thank you. What an incredible afternoon that we have been so privileged to spend together. And the pearls of wisdom that we have been really privileged to receive today. My heart feels very humbled by the beauty of the hearts and wisdom of our sisters and brothers presenters. And I would really like to thank them all for participating in today's event. It has really enriched my life so incredibly, deeply, and movingly. This has been a fascinating and important discussion, and the sacred wisdom and traditional practices of ancient cultures are increasingly being recognized as vital for the well-being of the planet and humanity. And so many lessons can be learned from the traditional approaches as has been shared, the resources, the communal responsibility, the dialoguing, and the importance of gratitude and understanding that as spiritual beings, the essence of who we are is love. We have seen today that despite the vast geographical and cultural differences by the perceptual field, Indigenous people from around the world share strikingly similar worldviews and traditions. And this deep understanding and respectful connection to the earth is rooted in thousands of years of observation, adaptation, and really honoring the sacredness of Mother Earth in the ever-changing external world. And Indigenous traditions, with their focus on spiritual well-being and a sense of purpose and becoming better people through having a moral and ethical compass, can offer pathways to healing and resilience in our communities. And integrating the wisdom of Indigenous people can provide important solutions in daily practice to the challenges of our modern times. And Indigenous people will protect their lands and honor their sovereignty by valuing their ancient traditions and really applying their principles and practices and ceremonies to allow us to continue to have a sustainable future in copacetic relationship with nature. And this holistic approach to life is based on the innate understanding that the well-being of people and each other are interconnected and cannot be separated from each other or from that divine source that is in the essence of all of the multitude of manifestations of forms. And spirituality in Indigenous cultures is a way of life centered on the land and the divine source that arises, from which all living things arise and is contained within the essence of all things and all living things. And the world has much to learn from these ancient sacred traditions. And in order for us to really embrace our own healing and the healing of each other, this sacred wisdom is sorely needed today. And I thank our Indigenous speakers for being so wonderful and generous with all of us to share your wisdom today. Thank you so much. And I turn now the floor over to Ben Bowler to give his concluding remarks. Ben?
Thank you so much, Audrey. This has been such an important dialogue, discussion, and deep gratitude to you and the whole team at the International Academy of Multicultural Cooperation and the Interfaith Ohana of Hawai'i. It has been such a joy to be here with Manulani and Chris and Anne, and just receiving the profound wisdom and knowing that there is so much more for us to absorb as we go forward together. My closing comments really are about just the extraordinary, infinite resources we have at our disposal with the human spiritual heritage, with a broad, open perspective going back tens of thousands of years, eons into the deep past, and including all of the revelations that we've experienced right around the world through all that time, personal, epochal revelations that have taken place, right up to embracing the religions of today. Warts and all, even our religious traditions themselves are evolving and are on a journey of evolutionary destiny. And there are also revelations coming through, new emerging spiritual understandings and concepts. You think about AI or some of those that are preparing for contact with off-world intelligences. We are, when you put it all together, we have unlimited spiritual resources to meet the challenges we face today, embracing and built upon the foundation of ancient sacred tradition as the bedrock of wisdom going forward, and that compass for morality and ethics upon which so much of the rest of the human traditions and spiritual frameworks can sit and be in harmony in this World Interfaith Harmony Week. So we draw incredible optimism, energy, faith, and commitment from listening to the messages shared today, and it redoubles our own personal commitment and faith to pursuing this destiny of a human future in harmony with the earth, in harmony with the cosmos. And we know that despite what it may look like on the surface today, that this is a journey that we are on together, and that we go forward, suspend our disbelief if we must, to continue the work. But when we are in this field, and when we are in this family, this ohana, we feel empowered, and we are empowered to go forward. So thank you, mahalo, for this incredible gift of the sharing today, because you have inspired and invigorated everyone who has participated in it today and who will view it into the future. This was a radical act of sacred activism, and I'm very grateful to have been a part of it. And I look forward to many more connections and sharings as we go forward together as one family on one planet with one shared common destiny. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if you find your nature, your purpose of being in this world, you can't do anything else. Everything else you do is just to go back to do the thing that you were born to do.
Purpose Earth made it happen. So we are in a country with challenges and with very difficulty to get sponsorship or funding, because we are all desperate for anything we can get.
What we've been able to do with Purpose Earth and the help that we've received from Purpose Earth is fast track that process so that we can start more projects, get more space in urban areas, and plant more Miyawaki forests.
Purpose Earth lifted us up, gave us the opportunity, gave us the hope, and made it happen. So where we were stuck, you gave us the solution, and you gave us the path to move forward.
Purpose Earth is illuminating that, so thank you.
It's just been amazing to receive this help from Purpose Earth.
Thank you, Purpose Earth.
Thank you, Purpose Earth.
The holding graphic just holds